chose the Tennessee Titans to be their new offensive coordinator. He had other options. Where does that leave, though, the Philadelphia Eagles, who interviewed Dable?
I know there's panic in the streets of Philadelphia over who the Eagles will choose as the offensive coordinator. And I'm here to say, calm down. They have interviewed 8 different offensive coordinator candidates. They will wind up hiring somebody that they believe has a great NFL future. Somebody that I'm watching right now would be Sean Mannion, the Green Bay Packers quarterbacks coach, who interviewed for a second time with the Philadelphia Eagles yesterday. If you talk to people around the league who have been around Sean Mannion, they speak very highly of him. Wouldn't surprise me if he wound up being the guy in Philadelphia, and it wouldn't surprise me if a few years down the line, Sean Mannion turned out to be a prime head coaching candidate.
All right. Well, Adam doesn't just talk and say things. Sean Mannion's a name to watch, obviously. The last 2 weeks, though, there's been a little bit of hysteria in the streets in Philly about why is no one wanting to line up and be our offensive coordinator. The offensive coordinator job in Philadelphia, do you view that, Dan, as a desirable one?
Of course. Of course.
You want it?
Take it, Dan.
I watched Sean Mannion play.
I was a teammate of Sean Mannion.
I was going to say,
Sean Mannion, very smart. Reminded me a lot of Kellen Moore. This is what I would say about the Philly OC job. It's a needle in a haystack type of thing, okay? Number one, you got to hire somebody that you think is going to be good at the job, right? That's capable of doing that job. Number two, I don't necessarily want someone that's their first time doing it. Sean Mannion, who would be first time calling plays. I don't feel great about that coming off of the offensive season that they just had. Number three, you better be mentally tough. That is a tough market. You better be mentally tough. You better know what you're walking yourself and your family into. That's just the truth, okay? That's just the truth. The fourth thing is, I don't want somebody that's going to leave in a year if I'm Philly. I don't want someone that thinks, okay, I'm going to go there for the year and then I'm going to propel myself to another bigger job. Because that's been the routine. And I think that's got to give Philly just a little bit of caution. So, this is the perfect storm that you're trying to weather right now if you're Philly.
You're worried about this year. And the good thing is, though, the price of eggs has gone up. So it's going to be very expensive if anybody wants to egg
a real thing,
the house
man.
of the future offensive
that's a real
coordinator.
deal. You know, Adam jokes about it. Guys, I go to you, Kevin Patullo's house or whatever it was, there was a talk of that it got egged. And that might not be something that every offensive coordinator or every offensive coordinator's wife wants to deal with when you go into a market. What do you guys think? Philly as a job, as an offensive coordinator position with all the things that go with it?
I have a question for Schefter. Out of those 8 interviews or those 8 candidates that they interviewed, how many of them took other jobs? Do you know that?
Mike McDaniel, I don't know if he ever interviewed or pulled out. Brian Daboll to the Tennessee Titans. So that's 2 right there. By the way, Mike McDaniel, where's his wife from? Southern California. Where did she want to go? Southern California. Philadelphia could not compete with that. Brian Daboll, close friend of Robert Saleh, wanted to work with Cam Ward last year. A lot of appealing elements to Tennessee. So I don't view it as these people turning down Philadelphia so much as it is being drawn to opportunities that anybody in any line of work would gravitate to.
No, I understand that. I just feel like there's been 7 OCs or 7 play callers go elsewhere, go off the board, to where it's my brain is why would a play caller not want to go to Philly with the roster that they have, the talent level on offense? You know, you have Jalen Hurts as a quarterback. They just came off of winning the Super Bowl last season. Why would any play caller not want to flock to Philadelphia?
Yeah, and to Dan's point about not wanting a first-time play caller, that's probably the easiest drop-off, is the easiest thing to do, to have a first-time play caller with that roster that you have. All you have to do is be somewhat creative. And Dan, I know we joked about it, but you get them boys under center, huh? You run a little extra tackle. You can get a lot of things done, especially with that offensive line. You can get it done. Now, when it comes to they're egging my house, it's listen, I feel bad for the man and his family, but football is not for the faint of heart. Philadelphia Eagles, they've always been psychopath fan bases, but it's you got to answer the bell. And I mean psychopath is a compliment. You want all your fan bases like that. So it's like if that's too much for you, then you shouldn't even be in contention.
You got to
for the
know.
job anyway.
You got to know what you're signing up to. Signing up
Gotta
to.
know.
That's
You
all.
got to know, no doubt.
Yeah,
But
I
it's
don't
like
think coaches are worried about the mental fortitude it takes to live in Philly as much as it is. We know the fraternity of coaches that everybody talks to each other.
Yeah.
No matter what, about jobs, about everything. And everything that we've heard internally about Philly throughout the year leads me to believe that coaches are sitting there talking to where some guys might be like, hey, I'm going to go take this other opportunity instead of going to Philly.
Exactly.
Sean Mannion, Google him. Get him on your radar. For this guy, Bill Belichick. The entire NFL has now chimed in, and we start with Tom Brady, who questioned his former head coach Bill Belichick's snub from the Hall. Belichick fell short of the required 40 of 50 votes needed for first ballot induction into the Hall of Fame. Here's what Brady had to say on the decision yesterday. Quote, "I don't understand it. I mean, I was with him every day. If he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, let's just let Brady do it himself."
Or not.
Or not.
I don't understand it. I mean, I was with him every day. If he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, there's really no coach that should ever be a first ballot Hall of Famer, which is completely ridiculous because people deserve it. And he's incredible. There's no coach I'd ever want to play for. I'd rather play for. If I'm picking one coach to go out there to win a Super Bowl, give me one season, I'm taking Bill Belichick. So that's enough said.
Thank you to Brock and Salk for that sound there. Brock Heward, of course, up there in Seattle. On Bill Belichick's Hall of Fame stub, Robert Kraft curiously chimed in as well. Whatever perceptions may exist about any personal differences between Bill and me, I strongly believe Bill Belichick's record and body of work speak for themselves. He is the greatest coach of all time. He is unequivocally deserves to be a unanimous first ballot Hall of Famer. And then there's the sound from Jimmy. Jimmy Johnson was very vocal on Twitter. Pat McAfee had him on his show yesterday. Take a listen.
Every voter is going to say, I voted for him, which is bullshit. A bunch of them are lying. No one knows the history of the NFL more than Bill Belichick. And it just pissed me off that it wasn't a slam dunk, him going into the Hall of Fame. And, I thought it was going to be an automatic. So I chartered a jet. I was going to go up there. To hell with it. I'm not going this year.
Jimmy!
Yep.
This can't be what this becomes.
Speaking of private jet talk,
Shout out to Jimmy.
he's
Jimmy
out.
Johnson
He's out.
had a great 24 hours.
Oh,
Yeah,
my gosh.
that's what happens when you speak your mind.
Yes, Adam, we start with you. It's been 24 hours plus. Everyone's chimed in. What are the ripple effects from this news that Belichick somehow, some way is not a first ballot Hall of Famer?
Well, where do you start with it? I think yesterday the Hall of Fame came out with a statement that said it's going to review this incident and take action against voters if they feel like laws and bylaws were violated. Now, what are they referring to? This may not be that the Hall of Fame is upset that Bill Belichick, the greatest coach of all time, not only didn't get in, wasn't unanimous, not a first ballot Hall of Famer. It's that the confidentiality laws that surround the Hall of Fame have been breached. Nobody is supposed to know this. And yet it got out. Seth Wickersham reporting that Bill Belichick is not a first ballot Hall of Famer, which has created a firestorm of controversy, and rightfully so. So the Hall of Fame now is going to, or at least it says it's going to, review the procedures and take any action that is necessary. Then there's all the additional fallout that comes along.
Before you get to that, so everyone who went out and then raised their hands online said, I voted for him, I voted for him, I voted for him. That's against what the Hall of Fame speaks to.
No,
right?
I think.
Or is it more the leaking to Van Natta and Seth?
It's more about what went on in that room, allegedly, that people said that there were voters who felt like this was penance for Bill Belichick, for Spygate and Deflategate. And maybe that was or wasn't true. But the fact of the matter is, to me, from the surface, and I'm open to having any voter tell me anything otherwise, I believe this was as much about personal feelings as it was Spygate and Deflategate. Bill Belichick was not always warm and fuzzy with the media. So here's a time that each media person on that panel gets to wield some power.
They get to stick it to him.
So some people felt like, you know what? He was not really nice to us. We're not going to be nice to him. And so they rejected. I believe that played a big part of it. As much as Spygate or Deflategate in a league where coaches and executives are always pushing rules and boundaries, including Bill Polian himself. Okay, so let's not say it's about that the greatest coach of all time is denied entry into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And the part that I also really don't like about it is that now Bill Belichick gets backed up another year.
Explain that.
So he comes up next year, and everybody knows that Bill Belichick is going to get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And he will, and he should. The problem is, now that means that somebody else that's been waiting, like Tom Coughlin or Mike Holmgren or Mike Shanahan, as they've been waiting, they have to wait another year.
Why?
There's only one coach per year.
One coach per year.
That's the rules. So he's right. So Shanahan, Holmgren was brought up. He has to wait, and it's because of a silly decision not to put him in.
So somebody else just got pushed back another year, which is another reason that this is utterly ridiculous that he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer. Now we're going to make other people wait too. Now we're going to make this personal. Now it's going to be about self-important voters who take it upon themselves to hold their grudge to keep this guy out, which is absurd and impacts the lives of other people that pushes them down the line.
But I asked you this yesterday, so I'm going to ask you it again because it still doesn't make sense to me. Then why can't the Hall of Fame rectify it? There's a reality. We can live in a world where everyone can take a step back and be like,
the vote is the vote. The vote is the vote.
But it's a new voting process.
Fine, for next year, but you can't.
Yes, you can.
No, you can't.
Yes, you can.
They already voted it. Why? What's the Hall of Fame stand on if you're just going to rip up the rules when the one guy doesn't get in? What about?
Because it's not one guy doesn't get in. Everybody that has a brain.
With every election too. That's all in this
but
country.
Everyone that has a brain has the ability to take a step back and be like, no. There's not one.
Do you think Belichick wants that now?
Dan, there's no way they could rectify this, because that would be them admitting they were wrong. And if they admit they were wrong, they admit there's a flaw in the system. And if there's a flaw in the system, it's not perfect, and they can't live behind the veil of being like, oh, it's all anonymous media, all that. This is clearly a massive issue that's taking place. Because we look at what Bill Belichick has done.
Right.
Yeah, you
blow it up.
We're saying.
I'm saying blow up the. Blow it up.
Blow it up. I asked ChatGPT. I said, well, "How does the Hall of Fame committee work?" And basically, it says, "I don't know." So they got to figure it out. They need to come out and say Bill Belichick should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I hate it for the other coaches to have to take a step back for another year, but for people to admit they're wrong in this day and age is the hardest part of all of this. When it really just takes a few guys going, "Yeah, we messed up."
Exactly.
But
there's the chance to make it right. There's the chance to adjust, and it's a new year of voting. It's a new process. Am I correct?
Yeah, first year with this new rules.
It's not a yes or no. It's a ranking system, all that. And it's silly to think that personal bias isn't going to impact that. They're human beings. There shouldn't be bad blood bias that impacts it. So I do think there's the opportunity for the Hall of Fame to take a step back and be like, there's not one person that can.
But there's 11 people.
But there's not
at least.
But there's
at
not
least
one person that can justify their response. That can justify it when it comes to the criteria.
Well, that would be the people in charge of the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Exactly.
So I haven't heard any one of them come out and say that we're thinking of reviewing these procedures right now and overturning them to allow Bill Belichick to become a first ballot Hall of Famer when there were at least 11 people that said this isn't happening.
The reason why they can't do that, because even in that moment, in this, wherever we're all aligned that Bill Belichick should be a first ballot Hall of Famer, it opens the door for more bias down the line for you to make decisions about what you want, whoever that committee is. And that's the problem with this vote, is because you've now watered down what it means to be a Pro Football Hall of Famer. You did it with T.O. the same way. Numbers point to it absolutely unequivocally that that's a first ballot Hall of Fame receiver.
But
personal bias, vendettas, and gatekeeping.
Right.
And that's not football. Football is the football results speak for themselves.
Pure meritocracy.
If you think you're tough, line it up, Dan, and we'll see that outcome. And we know what it's going to be.
Right. But I don't
you
want
either
you to feel
win
bad
or
about
you
yourself.
lose. You either make the tackle, you don't. You make the throw or you don't. You get the first down or you don't. Bill Belichick did that at an extremely high
But here's
clip.
my point
There
with
is
the
no gray
Belichick.
area.
Like, I'll go back to last year's MVP vote. Okay? Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. No matter what side you kind of stood on, you could hear the argument from someone else that stood on the other side and be like, yeah, I get that. That totally makes sense. You want to vote for Josh? Vote for Josh. You want to vote for Lamar? Vote for Lamar. Both had legit stances. There's no stance justifiably accurate that would say Bill Belichick
the 11 plus voters
it's not just one.
who cast their vote
not two.
would disagree. Dude, they voted no.
Then they got to justify it.
Four of the five.
So let's hear
or
it.
take the vote away.
4 of the 5 voters agree with you. 1 of the 5 did not. And that 1 of the 5 is 11 plus voters. I would add this. Chris Carter waited 6 years to get in the Hall of Fame. He retired as the second greatest receiver of all time.
By the way,
this happens.
There was a time back in my early 30s when I was a voter for 4 years. And there was a running debate about Lynn Swann and John Stallworth, and neither one could get into the Hall of Fame for years. They never redid the votes when both were worthy and both It goes on. The vote happens. This was a flawed system.
Right.
They made a embarrassing mistake. It makes the Hall of Fame look ridiculous, and that's the way it is, and they can't change it, and they have to live with it and adjust it going forward.
I've made this point before on yesterday's Get Up. There is no one in the history of football who cherishes the history of the league like Bill Belichick. And Bill Belichick just reveres the Pro Football Hall of Fame itself in Canton. He would go there as a kid. He would study the books. He would do it. For him to be the one not being inducted and held back by the Hall of Fame itself is truly, truly wild. We'll go to last word. We'll go to Will.
It wasn't personal.
We'll go to Will and Taylor for the last word from the bus. Guys, weigh in on Canton, Ohio.
I love the overreaction because Bill Belichick is as no-brainer of a no-brainer as you can get to be in the Hall of Fame. Because there is, and I get the sayings like, hey, this happens. There's guys, second greatest wide receiver of all time. But there is no story about the history of the NFL without guys like Bill Belichick. Tom Brady will be a first ballot Hall of Famer. And we're talking about any objective criteria that anybody could paint. Bill Belichick has been a part of and won 8 Super Bowls. He's won 6 as a head coach. And there's been a few first ballot Hall of Famers in the coaching ranks. You got Don Shula, you got
Chuck
Tom
Noll.
Landry, you got who is it? Chuck
Noll.
Noll, who won 4. Bill Belichick wipes them all. Like, you're not telling the story anywhere about the NFL without Bill Belichick. So I love the overreaction because there's no criteria out there that could justify keeping him out as a first ballot Hall of Famer, the gold standard of the gold standard. This man embodies all of it.
The only thing I would disagree with Will on and everything he said was this is not an overreaction. This is the proper reaction that should be taking place when it comes to Bill Belichick and not being a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Look at that.
Yeah, everything he's done on the gridiron and has done for the game of football, you're not going to find another coach that is going to beat that from his accolades, the way he was with his team. There's no way. This is clearly the media abusing their power and clearly seeing the off the field antics and all the things and just disagreeing with some of the choices that he's made. But just because you disagree with some of the choices that he's made doesn't matter because all the things he did on the football field. And that's the only thing that should matter when you're looking at being a Pro Football Hall of Famer.
And I do remember when I was a voter, and I do remember people wondering what makes a Hall of Famer. I do remember the advice that one veteran voter said. He said, when you are voting for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, can you write the history of the game without this person? And if the answer is no, then the person belongs in the Hall of Fame. You cannot write the history of football without Bill Belichick.
Schefter, that's a well-put statement.
Hey,
Coming
or
up-
Adam Schefter.
Adam, great. Coming up, who is going to